Welcome to Miss Impraim's webinar. You are watching via the recording, and so you obviously can't interact with Miss Impraim to ask questions, but hopefully she will answer some of the things that you're curious about where she is concerned. And without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Miss Impraim. Hi, Marjorie, I can't hear you.
All right, that should be better now. Can you hear me? Got it. Awesome. Great. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Marjorie Impraim, and I am one of the science teachers here at Big River Academy. I'm also a math teacher, but today we're going to be talking about science. And so I just wanted to introduce myself and just share with you a little bit about my science background and who I am and who is this lady who'd be teaching your kids science. So I'm excited to be here, and I hope after you watch this webinar, you would share it with someone else who may be looking for a science or math teacher. Big River Academy is a wonderful place. We've got great teachers here, and we're all enthusiastic, and it's Christ-centered, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. I'm privileged. I feel privileged to be part of this network of teachers. So with no further ado, Miss Bontrager, if you could just turn to the first slide for me. Thank you. If you could just turn to the, okay. This is my family, so I call it my salty family. Um, we're salty because we're not angry, not that kind of salty, but based on Matthew 5:13, that we want to be the salt of the earth. Our family does, and so so that's why I call them my salty family. This is, let me see, where's my pointer? I don't think there's a pointer here. Oh, yes, it is. There it is. All righty. So this is me right here, and this is NaCl, sodium chloride. Most of us know that's that's table salt, and this is a model, a organic model that me and my little ones built this last school year. This is me and my BFF. I refer to him as my BFF, my boyfriend forever slash husband. My kids always say, "You don't have a boyfriend." We always joke them, but he is my best friend forever. His name is Eric, and he's a wonderful husband, very loving and supportive. We've been together for 17 years. This is my family, part of my family. This is 4 of my 5, and we were visiting Grandpa at the hospital. So that's us. And this is our last edition, Sophia. She's my little buttercup. I wanted to show a smaller picture of her. She's 4 years old now, but I wanted to show a smaller picture of her. She was actually a micro preemie. She was born at 1 pound, and we went through a lot of prayer and a lot of trusting God during that time and understanding that medical science was important, but we knew ultimately her life was in God's hand. We watched her on several occasions actually flatline, and we really learned that the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. And he just chose to give. So we're thankful for that. Yes, she is a miracle. Thank you. So the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been married to my college sweetheart for over 17 years. I'm an alumni of the University of Maryland at College Park. Go Terps! We're hoping good things for March Madness this year. It's not been a really great year the last few years, so we're hoping for good things this year. Um, I have a BS in microbiology from the University of Maryland. After I graduated from Maryland, I worked in research as a research associate at the Institute for Genomic Research in Rockville, Maryland. Um, many many of you guys may have heard of the Human Genome Project. The company that I worked for in Rockville is very closely related, was closely related at the time with the company that was doing the Human Genome Project. Some people right before I got there, some people working with me actually worked on sequencing the human genome. So I got there right after, right after that project had been moved over to another company, HGS, I think it was called, Human Genome Sciences there. So, but I did work on some really fun bacterials. I sequenced a few genomes, and when I say sequencing genomes, if you may not be familiar with that means, is that we actually would bring in clones and you would break them apart because the DNA is extremely long and it's a very long code. And so what you would do is you would break the DNA apart and you would sequence it, basically figure out what is the genetic sequence of each base pair on that genetic code. And at the end, you sequence the whole genetic code for that bacterial genome. Now, it would usually take us months to do just the genetic code of a bacteria. Can you imagine the massive undertaking to clones of bacteria? Can you imagine the massive undertaking to get the genetic code of an entire human being? So yeah, it was very interesting. One of the fun ones I worked, GSP is Shewanella. It's a bacteria called Shewanella, and GDE, dihalogenase. But GBA is actually anthrax. And I remember when we started sequencing anthrax, that was really cool. It was like we had reporters showing up. Yeah. Well, we didn't work with the live bacteria. So remember, we're only working with DNA. So there was no chance for us to be infected. So I remember reporters would show up at the building and they told us, don't talk to the reporters. If the press comes, don't talk to the press. So that was really exciting. When you look at these shows on television, like crime scene shows, it is so, yeah, wash your hands, right? It so doesn't happen that way. It is so television, Hollywood, how they make it seem that everything is so fast and within 24 hours they get all this genetic material and then they solve the case and they burst down someone's door. It really is not that exciting. And it doesn't happen that fast. And one file up and you get your whole court case thrown out. So you can't have like a brand new, fresh person out of college. It's very interesting how television makes things so exciting. But anyway, that was fun. And then the Lord called me home since 2006. Details. I know. Yep. The Lord called me home in 2006. Not home. Not. I'm still here, like on earth. Not that home, but a different home. He called me a homeschool. Yes, I'm alive. Well, you're more alive when you're there, when you're with the Lord, but you know what I mean. He called me in 2006 to be a homeschool mom. And so I was just trucking along and homeschooling and stuff. And I headed up a homeschool co-op here in Maryland. I live in Maryland. And at my church of nearly 20 years, Calvary Chapel. And so I did homeschool co-op there for science. And then towards the end, we started doing geography and missions and things like that. But mostly it was a science co-op. And so that was really fun. I've tutored college students in organic chemistry and college algebra and college calculus and finite math and a few other things. It seems like a while ago. That was when I was tutoring those. So I've forgotten some of the subjects that I have tutored. Over the last few years, I have been teaching at home exclusively, and I'm enjoying it. I did teach at a homeschool co-op for 1 year recently, but that was just 1 year. I enjoy also facilitating women's Bible studies and counseling, yay, homeschool, and counseling with my husband. My husband and I do marriage counseling, and that's always a joy to be able to serve the Lord together. So that's a little bit about me, and I guess we can go to the next slide. So the classes which are to come this upcoming homeschool year at Big River Academy that I would be teaching are anatomy and physiology. I'm excited about the opportunity to teach on that. Nothing to me is more faith affirming than a good, honest science education where you come with an open mind to the information, to the evidence that you have, and you allow people to come to their own conclusion. To me, nothing is more faith affirming. A really quick story: when I was in I became a Christian in my senior year of college at University of Maryland, and I was taking biochemistry too. And my professor wrote a huge biochemical equation on the board. It looked like a symphony. You saw all these electrons just jumping around, and everything did every electron jumped to the same place at the right time, and the process would happen, and then that biochemical reaction would take place. And the class, it's a highly specialized class. It was only about 8 or 9 of us in the class. And he said, this molecule right here is the key to life. And I remember just being so overwhelmed as a young woman who had come to know the truth. And I looked at that and I thought, how could anyone think that just happens to happen every single time, millions and millions of times in one person's body? And that just happens to follow the correct path every time with no help. And I remember bursting out in class and said, no, it's Jesus. Well, that didn't go over very well. Yes, Jana, that didn't go over very well. My teacher just kind of stopped and looked. And my other Christian friends, there were 2 other girls there who were new Christians. They just looked at me like, oh, you're going to get it. I didn't get it. I got an A in the class, so I'm excited about that. I was excited about that. But I just don't understand how someone can truly understand science and understand how the Bible talks about in Colossians, how he holds everything together by the power of his word. Okay? And how we can understand things like entropy, which says things actually tend towards disorder if there's no natural force being pushed on it, right? So what does that mean for us, just regular lay people? If I leave my house the way it is, in a week, it will tend towards disorder. There are enough people in here to disorder it. Things don't tend, natural force, that's right. Nothing tends towards order in our world. Everything, you have to put energy into the system. Basic biology, basic chemistry tells us in order for a system to become more organized, you have to put energy into the system. Well, how could something so highly organized as a small, tiny fruit fly? Okay, we're not even talking about anything big, but a small, tiny fruit fly. When you think about the genetic material inside of a small, tiny fruit fly, how could it become so highly organized without a creator, without some kind of force holding it together? Colossians tells us that's the power of Christ's word, holding it together. It just makes sense to me. My young children will say it all the time, oh, mommy, how could anyone believe something so ridiculous as it just happened on its own? So anyway, anatomy and physiology is one of the classes that I'll be teaching. Microbiology is a class that I'm also just venturing out and wanting to teach. The study of microorganisms and germ theory. And why do we have so many germs now? Why are they so resistant now? How does that tie back into the Word of God? How does it go back to the garden, the fall of man, where germs are always around? Okay. Well, one day we lie down like the lion and the lamb with with staphylococcus. Will we be able to just enjoy staphylococcus without getting sick? Right? I know, right? What does Christ's redemption teach us about microbiology? And so we'll learn very technical things about bacteria, viruses, parasites, different parasites, and so forth. And that'll be taught on a high school level. Virology, this is something that I'm trying to put together. Because virology is so highly specialized, it's difficult to find a text that doesn't teach it from an evolutionary standpoint. So, that being said, I'm still toying with the idea of trying to teach that, perhaps just get a regular textbook, and children who will be learning this are in high school. By then, hopefully, that understanding of creation had been solidified, or we can do a unit to solidify on evolution versus biology. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, evolution versus creation. I'm not sure, but that is something I'm really excited about possibly tackling. It's the subject of virology, which is the study of viruses. Did you know that, yes, a work in progress. Did you know that viruses are not living and they're also not non-living? Did you know that? They're not living. They're not alive. I know. They're not alive and they're not non-living. They actually are considered on the line of life. Okay? Why is that? Well, because put inside of a host, they do a great amount of damage. A lot of us know that. This flu is going around. These colds are going around. Whole households. I've heard of the school right behind my house, they had 30 students out 1 week from viruses. Okay? So, inside of a host, a virus does a massive amount of damage. Outside of a host, a virus cannot survive by itself. So you can't say that it's living. Also, a virus pretty much is DNA with a protein coat. That's pretty much what a virus is. It attaches itself to your cells and injects its little DNA inside of you, hijacks your body's biochemical functions, and creates new virions, new copies of itself. And then the cell gets so overwhelmed and so swollen, like a parasite. The cell gets so swollen that it bursts and it kills that cell. And that's why you get so sick. And it releases millions of little virions. Fly, my little minions, fly and go and damage more cells. I tell you, it's a miracle we don't all just die. It has a lot of nerve, right, Jana? Exactly. That's why we moms love Lysol and Clorox wipes. We don't have any mercy on viruses. Amen. Exactly. So that I think that concludes my little webinar, and I wish more people were here so you can ask questions. We're excited at Big River Academy. I'm excited. I'm brimming with joy and hope to present your children with good science education. So if there are any questions, I am here to answer.
Well, Marjorie, the only thing that I am going to ask that I didn't add to the slide just a minute ago was what are these classes? Are they 1 semesters or are they full years?
Okay, that's a good question. So anatomy and physiology would be a full year course. So it's a class that will have labs, and your high schooler can get full high school credit for it. Microbiology and virology can either be taken as half credit, half semester courses, 2 half semester courses. We can either make it that way or lump it together to make a full year course. Now, that being said, um, with depending on what state you live in, some states may accept microbiology, virology together as a high school course that satisfies their state standards. For instance, with my state, they have a general science category. So I could lump those 2 classes together, make a full year class for my students, and it would satisfy a science full year credit in my state. If that is not the case, you probably could put them under electives in your state. It just depends on how specific your state standards are.
Okay, all right, so we need to check the state standards, and you are in Maryland.
I'm in Maryland, yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, that is a great question. Annette and Fizz are going to translate no matter where they are, I feel sure.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
Most states, I've never heard of a state that won't take anatomy and phys.
Yes, definitely, definitely. All right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Marjorie, I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself and sharing your expertise and your classes and really sharing your faith with us too. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Big River Academy, go!
Woo!
Have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
one.
Thanks, guys.